6.
We gooch.
Mm-hmm.
As always. It's episode 226 of the Platfomers, a show about nerds and game culture. And I'm your host, Brian Barnett.
I'm Joshua Mobley.
I'm Chris Shriver.
Wait, stop, flip it, reverse it.
There you go.
It's about nerds and game culture.
Nope. Nope.
Nope. It's about games and nerd culture.
Games, and you got
it's been 2 weeks since you looked at me through this Discord call, if I'm not crazy. But yeah, so last week was just so many things. This week, almost so many things, but we're good. We're all good. It's your 3 stalwart boys. Although one of these stalwart boys has a tiny suffering child in his home. So that's
it's not me.
It's not Chris and it's not Josh.
Nope.
No, but she's up chilling with Mama on the couch watching Turning Red or Anastasia or something.
Mm-hmm.
Just chilling under the blanket, trying to get better. So my little one has a fever. We did a rapid COVID test just to make sure, although I'm not sure where she would have gotten it. It's negative. I almost said false.
It's
false.
false.
COVID test.
False.
But so we don't know. She's had a fever. It's been like 3 days so far. It sucks, man.
That sucks, dude.
Yeah.
It is never fun when a kid is sick and can't express how they're feeling, so they're just crying the whole time.
They don't have the social intelligence to like tell you what's wrong.
Yeah.
They're just like pain. And you're like,
yeah,
oh,
it's been interesting because she's at the point where like she can definitely construct lots of different sentences and things like this. But the weird thing is, while she's had this fever, she's just repeated single sentences over and over again. So like it'll be like, do you want Dada to go get you a banana? Do you really want Dada to go get you a banana? Do you want Dada to go get you a banana? Like she just does that, and I can tell that she's like her eyes are like droopy, and I'm like, you don't feel well at all.
Yeah, she's just
I'm
out
like,
of it.
I'm gonna go get you a banana, but like, it's just there's just anytime you go and do anything for her, you can just hear in the distance just like muttering of what a couple of sentences, or she'll just ramble about stuff, and like roughly 80% of it, I have no idea what she's saying. Like I get little things here and there, but then she'll say something and I'm like, that is definitely not English. And then like I'll catch something and I'll be like, oh no, that was English. Her pronunciation is just out of control.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Like I don't know if I sent you guys this video. We're gonna get into the games talk very soon, but I don't know if I sent you guys this video where we've been fixing Brussels sprouts. And so she was like saying these words and I was like, what? And she's like, do you want some Busey Putes? And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, this is amazing. So she and sometimes it gets even like, she goes for even bigger air where she'll like add SH to it. She'll be like,
bigger air. God.
But yeah, like it's having a kid is great, but when they're sick, man, it sucks. Well, but she's not feeling totally terrible, so I appreciate it. I know there have been some people that I know that have been sending well wishes, and I appreciate it. You'll get your status update when she's feeling better, and the world will rejoice with us.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to check with you guys. What the last time that we did our episode obviously was two weeks ago. Had I totally finished Elden Ring by then?
No.
I think so.
Okay. You were
sure?
close.
I think you did.
Maybe you did.
But I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about that because I either whether I had beaten it or not, I have platinumed the game now.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I think that's what I'm thinking of. I saw the platinum tweet after we had recorded, and I was like,
yes,
that son of a bitch, he did it.
I did it, which means I think the only ones I don't have are Dark Souls 2, and actually, let me search for Dark Souls Remastered. Oh shit, no, I did get the Dark Souls Remastered. So the only entry in the series that I don't have the platinum for. Oh wait, never mind. I did platinum Dark Souls 2.
This guy.
Oh, I'm like looking on Steam and I'm like, oh no, I did that. No, I've done all of them. Demon Souls PS3, Dark Souls Remastered, Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin, Dark Souls 3 on PlayStation 4 and PC, Demon Souls PS5, Sekiro on Steam, and now Elden Ring on PS5. And I'm well on my way to get it on PC as well. I'm going to get the platinum, or I'm going to get 100% twice.
Brian wept. There were no more worlds to conquer.
I mean, yes, for a while, until FromSoft comes out with Elden Ring 2 or whatever. There was this rumor. Did you guys hear this rumor? Did you guys hear this rumor that they're actually creating something with somebody else? Oh, what was this? FromSoft making new game. I can't believe that I didn't make a note of this. Oh my god, what was it?
I mean, there was that April Fool's thing going around that Sony was buying them. You're not
that. No,
okay.
No, there was a thing that that FromSoft was getting together with another like writer or something to like for like their next game. That like they did the George R.R. Martin and they're doing that again with like another writer. They're making another unique thing with another writer. God damn it, what was it?
J.R.R. Tolkien's back
from the dead.
Oh, yeah. The Wheel of Time guy.
Oh, I think I did hear that.
He's been dead. He's famously
dead. Is dead?
The creator of Wheel of Time, that dude's famously dead.
Who was this?
Maybe
a lot of those authors are dead.
Maybe it's a Wheel of Time Amazon series showrunner or something. Is
it the guy who maybe finished it? Because the initial guy did not.
Yeah.
Okay, so this according to the IGN article, it's Brandon Sanderson, and apparently he unboxed an Elden Ring gift package from Bandai Namco that said that they were interested in working with them. Brandon Sanderson.
Oh, okay, I know that this is the guy who,
So did he pick up? He did a
what's it called? Like a Kickstarter where he got like $1 million for his next novel or whatever.
Okay, so he finished Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time series. Yeah. He's the guy who came in and finished it.
Yeah. But he's like a famous fantasy writer.
Yeah, so I thought that was interesting because I will say, I don't know if I talked about, and again, this is why I was wanting to ask you guys if I talked about my thoughts after having beaten the game. But I think this is my favorite FromSoft game now.
Shocker.
Yeah.
I mean,
color me surprised.
Sekiro was not. So
no, but you and the rest of the internet has been high on this game since the day it dropped.
But like we talked about this like in the open and closed like alpha and beta tests, like I wasn't super into it.
No, but I don't think you and everyone were exposed to how expansive the game actually is and how open it actually is in those test flights. It seemed like.
I mean, I didn't get to do that much of it.
No, but it just seems like the pre-release versus post-release conversation, it was like, yeah, this game feels really good and it feels really accessible. And then it switched to Breath of the Wild, but FromSoft. Like, that was the phrase that everybody kept throwing out there.
Yeah. Whoever came up with Death of the Wild is brilliant.
Yeah.
But and another thing, you talked about the beta versus the full release. As somebody who's now taken on the job of creating the Armor Encyclopedia for Elden Ring for IGN, I've noticed there's a lot of differences. Like there's stuff there are full armor sets that used to exist in starting classes that were available in the closed and open beta test, and those classes don't exist anymore. And that armor is found in totally different places and has different stats and is called different things. And I think that it won't be any surprise to FromSoft fans that like where armor is located in the world is significant. Like that means something. Like where enemies turn up, like the fact that the first thing that you run into outside of the grave that you wake up in is a tree sentinel is important. Like if you want to figure out what's actually going on in the world. And even the stats, like one thing that I was thinking about as I was like parsing all of these damage numbers, like even the defensive stats on armor can tell you something about the world. Like if you find an armor set that's from some, shadowy syndicate and it has really high holy resist, that tells you something about the people that they're trying to fight. You know what I mean? Like there's some interesting things that can go on there when you come up with factions that are like allying themselves against the church and trying to take it down and these sorts of things. But man, they really did themselves a service when teaming up with Martin to write this.
Did they? Because I just get the impression that his name's on it.
I get that.
I mean, he basically wrote like a short story, and then they like pulled they expanded that and like pulled the themes and stuff like that. Like this feels as cohesive as Bloodborne to me, basically. Not quite, because this has a lot more moving parts. Bloodborne is way more focused and singular, but like it definitely feels more of a piece than probably anything since
Bloodborne.
I don't know. It's better than Dark Souls 3 is what I'll get at. Like because Dark Souls 2 has its own thing and its own fans, but like it's not the same as Dark Souls 1, which like has the pantheon that they reveal at the beginning and then you're fighting them and all that sort of stuff. Anyways, clearly catch the fever, and this is it. This is the one to beat for me for GOTY, which surprise, surprise. But I also it's hard for me to imagine going back and replaying other games in this series and not just playing this one.
Yeah.
Maybe I will, do other ones in the future, but this one feels the most wide open, and because of that, it feels like there are so many different points where you can be like, all right, I know how to get here super early. Like one of my favorite things in gaming, like I did this in Ocarina of Time, is sequence breaking. I love that stuff, and this is the game where you can sequence break the absolute F out of it. Like you can go to the end game. Like I think somebody beat it in like
someone beat
20
it in
minutes,
9
minutes, something like that today. Like
no.
Now that's a wrong warp glitch, but like you can even not, like I was looking up speedruns of it. You can beat it without doing wrong warp. You can beat it in less than an hour. Like if you know where you're going, which is like, that's so fascinating to me. I love it. I love it. But anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that. Like you're probably not going to hear a lot more, other than the fact that like on my second playthrough, even though my PS5 playthrough was for the Platinum Trophy and for work, because I'm obviously working on it, my PC one, I'm actually going for 100%. So I'm going to try to get every item in the game on this playthrough, which is tricky, and I already screwed up because there's one thing that you can get as a starting gift that's like a rune, and I didn't pick it, and that's the only thing that you can't get anywhere else. But whatever. I'll have every item except for that one.
This sounds like Pokemon. It's like you
have... What, doing everything?
No, you have one starter to pick from. You can't get the other ones.
Yep.
Unless you do some weird shit.
Yeah.
It's a consumable item.
Do not pick the couch.
It just has like a unique rating thing, so it's not that big of a deal. The main thing that I'm concerned of is like weapon spells, ashes of war, armor, that sort of stuff. Just because I want to try everything. This game is so cool. Everything is so neat and fun. Like there's so many cool things that you can do.
I can't wait for it to be $30.
It's gonna be. I mean, it won't be long.
I hope. I keep every Sunday. I wake up. I go through Warrior 64 tweets, and I'm like, "Is today the day?" Nope. All right, and then I move on.
Where are you gonna grab it? Do you think?
PS5. That's where everyone has it. I'm not playing it on PC. Deal with it.
Although I will say I cannot wait to see what the mod community gets up to.
Well, they already have.
But I mean, like a little.
Oh,
bit
you
further
mean like, yeah.
I mean,
like gameplay mods.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, because one of the huge things about Dark Souls 3 and why I definitely recommend people play these games on PC is because the mod community goes ham. Like Cinder's mod for Dark Souls 3, I talked about it on the show. Like, this is the definitive way, I think, to play the game. And I can't wait to see what people do, because it took Dark Souls 3 from a game that, like, there are not that many viable builds into something like Elden Ring, where like you can do anything. They added weapon things. They basically added Ashes of War, and like it's just amazing. So I can't wait to see the degree. Like Elden Ring is better than even that version of Dark Souls 3. I can't wait to see how the community elevates this game even beyond. Like it's gonna be nuts. I cannot wait. That is the thing that I'm waiting for. It'll be too long before FromSoft comes out with something else, but the community will come out with some cool mods and be like, hey, we found some content, we restored it. Here's some new enemies. Let's pull in some other stuff. Let's add some crazy new weapons from other games in the series. You know, that sort of stuff. But
yeah.
Anyway, that's all I got to say about that. What do we want to talk about next? I don't know what you guys got. I got some stuff that I want to review, but I want to let one of you guys talk because I've been rambling about Elden Ring.
That's fine. I have played a little bit of Elden Ring, but I don't know if if all of the conversation around it is like doing this to me, or if this is just me. But to me, I don't know that I see what everyone is so like hyped about. Like, I like these games, by the way, these Dark Souls games, even though I've never beaten one, but it just feels like
these games. I like these Dark Souls games.
Just like I'm just like, hold on a minute.
Everyone's like, burn him alive.
Personally, it just feels like a Dark Souls game to me, but I don't.
Yeah.
But I'm also not that far in. But there's like, I've heard stories where people are like, but I hate these games, but I love this one and stuff, and I'm like, I don't understand. They feel
I know
the
people
same.
like that.
It feels I don't understand that, because to me it feels exactly the same. Like, yes, there are like different things, and there's like some quality of life things, and yeah, it's like not as like boxed in, but to me I'm like, yep, it's a Dark Souls game. I don't know.
Yeah, the things that I have heard from people, and I get this, and this is the thing that I would, when people are like, should I try this one? Because there's two different schools. There's the school of like, it's another one, so if you don't like those, you're probably not going to like this. And there are people who have bounced off that are like, yeah, I didn't like the previous ones and I didn't like this one. But there are other people for whom the quality of life changes and the ability to, oh, you can't beat Margit, you can go do other stuff. You know, you can get some Ashes of War. You can summon in your friends way more easily now than or like just other people in the community way more easily than you could before. And it's not a finite resource and stuff like that, for whom those things kind of add up to be like, I can do this. Like where it was like, where the Souls games were like a near miss. And this is like bridging the gap and kind of coming to them. I get that, but like if you don't like the gameplay at all, but I mean, Will, friend of the show, Will Berger, likes this game and didn't like the previous ones. But I think the last one he played was Dark Souls 1. And he just like the combat feels way more fluid this time around because it feels like a better version of Dark Souls 3 combat. Or Bloodborne, or whatever. And I agree with that. Like if you haven't played the series since like Demon Souls or Dark Souls 1 or Dark Souls 2, like give it a shot. But if you played Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3 and didn't like those, then I don't think you're gonna like the way this feels, because it just feels like a better version of that.
Feels like more, yeah. But
how far are you in?
No, not very. Let's see. I killed a cat robot.
Oh, hell yeah, dude. I love that boss. It's so goofy.
The first time I got to it, though, I got really annoyed because I couldn't kill it. And then I just was like, fuck this, and just left. And then I literally Googled, how do I level up? Because I just didn't want to, like, I was like, I don't care. I want to just know. So, and I let's see. I did that. I went to...
What was your starting class?
Vagabond.
Vagabond. That's the you start with like a sword and a shield.
Basically.
Okay.
Yeah, and then a big spear.
Oh, okay. Cool.
But I did that. I went to this bridge where I had to fight this dude, and I like kind of almost got him, but then I just sighed and left because I was like, forget it. Like, um, I don't know. This is the thing this is why while I enjoy these games, this is the problem I have, and I think it goes into some other problems I have with things and it's mostly personal. Is like I'm pretty impatient, and also like if I get frustrated, I'll just stop doing something. Like I'm not gonna be like, let's persevere, I'm gonna kill this boss. I'll be like, man, I'll just go play League or something. Like I'll just literally stop playing the game. Um, but I also just, and it didn't help that like I played Tunic and then immediately went to this because they both have this really like esoteric, like, well, you can figure it out kind of thing
Yeah.
to them that just frustrated me for a little bit. And I'm just like, part of me feels like I shouldn't need to use a guide. Like I should at least have all of the information necessary in the game to know like where I'm going or what I'm supposed to be doing, because there's a lot of times in Elden Ring where I feel like, and this is like in Souls games in general, but like when I'm playing Elden Ring where I'm literally just kind of like walking in a field and I think like, oh, there's a thing over there. I guess I'll go look at it. You go look at it and there's literally nothing in there. And you're like, okay. Like, well, that was cool, I guess. Sometimes there is, right? But a lot of times it's like there's nothing there, or you're just like, I'm in the middle of a field and oh man, I'm getting shot by arrows. And then you're like, oh, I guess I gotta go get my runes back or whatever. So like, and I don't know what it is, but sometimes it feels tedious. Like, I like the games when I'm moving forward, like a lot, and I feel like I'm overcoming things, but I feel like 90% of the time when I'm playing these games, and maybe other people share this problem, I feel like I'm sort of stagnating and like wasting my time. And I feel like I'm supposed to know where I'm supposed to go, but I have no fucking idea. And maybe that's just me, but I don't know. I'm a little bit of a weirdo in that in that way.
There is a thing. There is a thing called the guidance of grace, and I don't know if you've been paying attention to that, but when you're at sites of grace that are near stuff that you should be doing, there's like you'll see like a little arc of golden light moving in a particular direction. That generally is where you need to be going for like story progression sort of stuff. But other than that, like I think the idea is just like you just wander around, get strong, and then you do the main stuff.
Yeah. Get strong. We'll see. I haven't played much of it because it's not technically mine. It was gifted to my wife for her birthday. So it's hers, and she's a lot farther than I am. But
what does Nicole think of it?
She seems to like it. She's been playing it. I don't remember. She picked Samurai, I think.
That's a popular one.
Yeah.
That's the one that speedrunners pick, I think.
Oh, really? Interesting. Yeah, I think she's further than I am.
I think it's the only class that starts with a bow, and bows are super useful in this game.
She loves bows. I'm not usually that person. I'm usually like, I just want a sword and I want to hit things because I'm smooth-brained and dumb. But
you need to be. I mean, speaking of smooth brain and just wanting to hit things, I've been playing co-op on PC with Will, and he's just got the Guts greatsword, and he just levels it up and just smacks the absolute shit out of things. Lumbago in the chat said that they're the same way. They said, I never want to consult guides. I remember I saw a Legend of Zelda guide as a kid and called my friend who had it a cheater. That's so old school of me, but I'm glad to know there are others like me in the world.
I feel that way too, and I feel like I shouldn't feel that way. You know what I mean? Like
I feel dirty when I have to consult a guide.
So
I had this issue. This happened to me when I was playing Tunic.
And full disclosure, for those, if there's anybody in chat that's watching that does not know what I do, I write video game guides for IGN.
So
and now GameSpot, I guess, which I hadn't announced, but
no, you had not announced.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on that. Thanks, man. What was I gonna say? Oh, I had this problem with Tunic where I literally got to the final boss, and just couldn't beat them, and then realized that I had like way less health potions than like lots of other people had at this point in the game. And I was like, well, I guess I'll go get those and then go fight the last boss. And then realize that after you do this certain story thing, that the world changes and like locks you out of a lot of things. So I literally couldn't go get stronger. It was like, no, you have to
that
just beat the
sucks.
boss now. And so it was like, I kept getting really close, and I'm like, I could beat this, or I could just turn on the accessibility mode
And
that gives
then
me
beat it.
infinite health and just beat this person to death and then
Oh,
be
it
done
has
with
that?
it.
Oh,
It
big
does.
big ups to Tunic for having that sort of
So
stuff.
I just did it, and but like it
Took some of the wind out
frustrated
of your
me.
sails.
It frustrated me a little bit, yeah. And like,
Yeah.
but then also there were moments in Tunic where I would feel like I was dumb and I was wandering around, and then suddenly I would go, wait a minute, I never noticed that little thing there. And then you see it, and then all of a sudden you're like going, you're like, oh, there's a whole thing here. And it's great. And then there's other times where it felt very like Monkey Island, where I'm like, I have no fucking idea where to go. And then I look up a guide, and it's like, oh, well, you needed to like add the sulfuric acid to the soup and throw it at the, door.
Yeah,
And I'm
it's
like,
the most esoteric, ridiculous nonsense ever.
how
Yeah.
would I have ever figured that out? Like there are things like that, and I feel like the Dark Souls games sort of do that sometimes to some degree, where I can
I
appreciate like their mystery, and they're like, what does this thing do? You don't really know like what the items you pick up sort of do unless you like really read into it, or so a lot of times they tell you, but sometimes they don't quite. They're like, it's a key,
yeah.
it's like the something key, and you're like, great, what does this go to? And you have no idea, and you could play the whole game and never use it, right?
Yeah.
um I get a little annoyed at that stuff, but I don't know if that's just me. Like I don't know if I'm just like
I feel like a lot of people
weird.
probably feel that way.
Probably.
Well, no, I
But
mean, I think for me, it comes down to a like. I mean, part of it is the thing of games respecting your time, where it's like, I don't know that I want to get this absorbed into this world and be like, have every little thing be this great mystery. It's like, no,
Mm-hmm.
this is a potion. I drink it. Like that's it. That's all it needs to be.
Yeah.
Like we don't need to go any deeper than that.
Well, also there's sometimes those but also there's those times where like they'll say, oh, it's a potion of like something or other, and you don't know what it does, and so you don't want to use it, because then if you
Ocean of the Frost Giants, and you're
because
like,
the minute you use
okay.
it,
Yeah.
you may or may not learn what it does, and then if you learn what it does, you're like, great, well now I don't have it. So
right, I could have used that
you know
20
what I
minutes
mean?
from now.
It's a little bit like that. But I'm with you, Chris. Like I don't have as much time to play games, so I'm kind of like I want to dip in for like 2 hours and come out and feel like I did something, like
Yeah.
pushed it forward or got something out of it. And a lot of times games where I don't feel like that happened, whether it's my fault or their fault, I don't know.
That's why
Frustrated.
I left Horizon. Like that's what got me
Yeah.
out of it. It was like, yeah, I was doing all these little side missions and story missions and all that, but like every time I left, I was just like, to what end? Like I'm still in this same area with like this
Yeah.
at this super low level, and I don't care about what's happening.
I like this, and I feel like this represents like where I am generally. In chat, the real bright side panda says, I'm old. When I was 15 and had time to kill, I loved it. Nowadays, if I spend 45 minutes, I just Google shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of it, because it's really important when you're young. There's that whole thing, and I think famously, people have said, when you're young, you have no money and you have tons of time. When
Yeah.
you're old, you have money and you have no time. So your priorities change. And because of that, playing games that respect your time feels so much better when you're older. And it's like, okay, I got like 2 hours a night, 3 hours a night, whatever, depending on whether you have kids or not and how your partner feels about gaming and these sorts of things, whether you do it together. I have a couple of hours at night to do what I want. How much value am I going to get out of what I'm playing? And it's important for people to feel like their time is being valued. Whether or not that is, my time is being valued in Elden Ring because I'm given a space where I can explore and make meaningful decisions about where I go and what I do. And all of it feeds into the cycle of I'm getting stronger, I'm getting more equipment, I'm getting more armor, I'm learning more spells that are going to help me progress in the main story. Or whether it's this is a linear ass thing, I'm going to play it Uncharted, I'm going to run down a hallway, I'm going to shoot all these dudes and just keep going until I get to the end of the game. And I feel like there's an element to which Elden Ring, I agree with you, Josh. Like there's an element to which it is difficult when you feel like, okay, I'm going to run to this field and there's lightning striking and what's going to happen? And kind of nothing happens. And like creating the space for you to discover. But if that doesn't speak to you and speak to your sense of, time, or that feels like a waste of time, like I get it. One of the things that I really like about Elden Ring is I feel like the esoteric stuff really comes out when you get into the side quests and the character quests. And you can fail those, but unlike with Tunic, they're not going to lock you out at a point that feels like arbitrary, if that makes sense. Like you're just not going to get a certain ending of the game. You're not going to get a certain piece of equipment or a certain piece of armor. Now, maybe that thing is really overpowered that you're not going to get. Like, for example, I was working on something and there's an invasion that happens in a late game area where if you beat the person, you get this really, really powerful weapon called the Rivers of Blood. And this is a main thing for like bleed builds and arcane builds, like arcane dex builds. And I needed it, so one of my coworkers was able to drop it for me. But there's a certain boss that when you beat them, you don't get that invasion anymore, which means you can't get that weapon anymore. But nothing in the main story is missable. So that's something that like I can kind of respect, where it's like, this is a really esoteric thing. You need to go to this specific area of the map, use a specific gesture to meet a character, and then you can go on and, go through some story mission with them or something. But otherwise, like, you can just go beat Margit, you can beat Godric, you can just get to the end of the game and just finish it. So that's kind of where I'm like, I like that if they were gonna introduce esoteric stuff, it's not on the main path.
Sure.
It's on like side stuff that's totally optional. And like I can kind of allow that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I get that. I think a lot of it too is just because I don't have as much time to play games, like when I do play a game, I kind of want it to be like over in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah.
And sometimes when someone's like, "Oh man, that game was so short. It was only 20 hours." Like 20 hours to me, unless I really want to play it, is like a
beefy.
lot
That's a
to
lot.
ask.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot to ask from me. Like
Well,
I probably won't finish.
And
I think
in that,
historically
like,
we've been like, 2 hours, hell yeah, like
Yeah.
5 hours.
dude,
gimme.
more if there were like 5, 6 hour games more out there, oh my god, I would be so happy.
What's funny is like right now my mental lineup of like what I actually want to play this year is all that. It's Hollow Knight, Hyperlife Drifter. I want to play Fez again. Like all these indie titles that, they're
That's so
typically
good.
they're not more than 10 hours, and there's a lot of them that I've never played or I haven't played for like 10 years.
Yeah.
And they're all on Switch OLED and it looks really good on there. So I just keep I just keep going back to it ever since we went on our trip. Cause yeah, like people are saying, like, as much as I want to try Elden Ring, I know it's gonna happen. I'm gonna play it for, I don't know, 5-6 hours, and I'm gonna bounce because I'm just gonna be like, it's not for me. It's way too long. I'm never gonna see the end of this, and I don't want to. Like, I don't care to spend this much time in a world that just doesn't interest me. Now, go ahead and sharpen the pitchforks and
I'm
light
not
the
going to sharpen
torches.
any
I'm
pitchforks on you.
interested
I'm with
to
you.
see. I'm interested to see if that ends up being the case, because I know several people for whom this was the one that clicked. So I
We'll
find
see.
that incredibly sad. As somebody who just remembered that he has to platinum in every FromSoft game since Dark Souls 1, as somebody who is, obviously very into these games, I love seeing it click with new people.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people for whom Bloodborne was like the one, and
That was the first one I actually played.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Oh, okay."
It's so stupid, and I actually wonder how much of it is because of the job that I have, and like the nature of the job that I have. But the menus in Bloodborne and Demon Souls and Dark Souls, like you hit a button and it's just like text, like the whole screen is tiny text, and you have to read all of it, and it's so stat based. And I'm just like, I do this every day. Like I don't. This does not need to exist in my private like fun time.
I feel like that sometimes too when I open, it's like you got a new sword or a new shield, and I'm like sick, and I look, and you can't like compare the stats. I have to literally like look back and forth, like is this better or worse? Like it's like it has the same ability, so is it essentially the same shield with a different name? Like I don't know, you know, like that kind of stuff does annoy me. But I also think, and I suffered from this a little bit because I honestly wouldn't be playing Elden Ring if it wasn't gifted to my wife and I had access to it, right? At least right now I wouldn't be playing it. Is that Chris, I feel like you just don't want to feel like you have to play something because everyone else is playing something.
I'm very much a hipster that way.
I feel the same way, like all the time. I want to play what I want to play, and then people are always like, you're not playing Red Dead Redemption 2 like all the way through.
I tell Chris,
like,
no, man, you know what? Play Elden Ring. He's never gonna play it.
You know what I did before we hopped on today? What I was playing? The Simpsons Road Rage.
Banjo-Kazooie.
No, I played The Simpsons Road Rage, and I was like, man, this game still rips. Like, I haven't played that game in I don't even know how long. But it's just like random stuff like that I'm like, yeah, I'd much rather play. It's a tight experience. I can play for I played for 20 minutes. I felt like I got something out of it. I got a new character, I got a new level, and then I left.
Yeah. They weren't trying to sell you something.
Right. It just it is exactly what it is, and that's fine.
But I feel like in our bubble also, and in our industry, there's this pressure to like always be on top of what everybody else is playing and talking about. And I don't want to feel that pressure.
I'm losing a lot of that. Like, and not just with video games, like even TV and movies. Like
same.
Moon Knight is out. I haven't watched a single episode. I have no desire to watch it at all.
I don't have any desire
wanted to
watch
actually talk about that because I just watched the first episode of Moonlight last night. Sorry. I've been drinking this. Shout outs to oh my god.
You have been drinking it.
You shouldn't have tried to say night twice in a sentence.
Yeah. Last night I've been watching Moon Knight.
I've been drinking this drink is called a Polish Party because I learned about this drink when I went to the Polish Party at PAX 2018. This is Zbrowka vodka and pure unfiltered pressed apple juice. And you can cut that also with 1 part water if you want. But this stuff is so freaking good. Let me tell you guys. And it'll get you there.
You appear to already be there.
Yeah.
I am there.
You've left the Shire.
I've had breakfast and 11Cs and luncheon just in this glass right here. But it's great. But I didn't eat anything since lunch, so it's hitting me
in a
sideways,
different way,
but in a good way.
Yeah.
So, what was I talking about?
I don't know, man.
You've left the Shire.
Write that down, Josh.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. What was I talking about?
I wrote it down.
I was talking about something. I was making some.
We were talking about like not feeling pressured to do something.
And then I said I haven't watched Moon Knight, and then you cut me off.
Oh yeah.
And then you talked about being drunk.
Fair, and I apologize for that. I watched the first episode of Moon Knight, and this is the most fun I've had watching a Marvel show in a really long time.
Is that because we haven't had a Marvel show in 3 months?
No, I just think that it embraces like just weird stuff in a way that I really appreciate. This is definitely the none of the other Marvel shows have I watched the first episode and been like, fuck yeah, I'm in. More than this one. This one, like most of them, like it took a couple episodes for me to get into WandaVision and like all these other ones. And this one, I'm like, hell yeah, dude, give me more immediately. But then it was like, I think like 11:15 and the next episode was an hour. And I'm like, okay, so wait a minute. And then I'll come back to you later. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that.
Yeah. Well, I
that's
also
good.
it's
because it doesn't feel like Marvel. It feels
Yeah.
like something totally different. It
Yeah.
feels
but like
totally
here's a good my favorite YouTuber of all time, Patrick Willems. He always does like a year wrap up thing where he talks about everything that he watched in a year, TV or movies or otherwise, and comics and stuff. And he talks about whether or not he really liked them, or usually it's the stuff he liked or whatever. Um, and he had a line in the one he did about last year where he said, I, I talked to a bunch of my friends and they all kept talking about this thing. They kept saying like nobody's really making like movies anymore. Like they're all making Marvel stuff. But then when you ask them what they've been watching, it's like only Marvel stuff. And he's like, you realize that other movies come out, right? Like you don't have to. He's like, when you go to the movies and your friends are like, well, I'm going to go see Spider-Man for the second or third time. And he's like, dude, there are other great fucking movies like coming out
Yeah, what
that
is it like?
people aren't
You could
talking
go
about.
watch 3 billboards
Yeah.
outside of what is
Like,
it, Lansing, Michigan, or whatever
we have the same thing in games where like everyone's playing Horizon, everyone's playing Zelda, everyone's playing Elden Ring, and it's like there are like probably like 5 or 10 other games that came out this month or in the last couple months that are fucking great that no one's talking about. And like you could be playing those. You could be playing old things that you really like. Like I don't feel like I feel like there's this weird pressure to like always be
Be part of the
playing
conversation.
what everyone else is playing. Yeah, and then
It's
when you
gotta-
say like
yeah.
I'm not playing Elden Ring currently, people are like, "What? But it's so good."
Have any of
And
us played Horizon?
he did.
I literally,
didn't.
I've talked about it for the
But-
last like 3 episodes.
What I realize
Hey, did I tell you how good this drink is, man?
what I realize as I get older is the more I have that interaction, the more I have people go, you should do this. You're not doing this. You should totally watch
It
It's
makes you want to
amazing."
do it less.
It makes me want to do it even less.
Yep.
Like,
Yeah.
if you just left it at, oh, it's good, I think you'd like it. That's all you need to say. That will not affect my whether or not I watch it in the future. Maybe it'll affect it more, but the whole
Yeah.
thing of like you've never seen X or you've never played Y, I feel like is just really annoying, and I think people need to stop. I've tried really hard to stop doing it. Like I met someone recently who they'd never seen Star Wars, and someone expected me to be like, you know
You have
what?
to go
Yeah.
play it.
And my reaction was, you're allowed to have not seen things.
Yeah.
It's fine. Like it's not that big a deal.
You're still here. I'm still here.
I'm like, watch it if you want. I don't care. It's like it's like
Yeah.
I feel like we need to move forward as a society. If we live in a society,
We really do.
we need to let people just like not be a part of the conversation sometimes, and realize that sometimes like trying to push people in makes them want to be a part of it even less.
Yeah.
You know.
For some people, for other people, like that communal aspect is something of value. Like for me,
Sure.
like that's the thing where like people are like, oh man, you got to go see this, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I could go see that, and then we could talk about it. Like that sounds fun to me. But another thing is, like I feel like there's a degree to which the kind of countercultural movement of, okay, there's a lot of Marvel movies coming out. There's a lot of Marvel shows coming out. There's a lot of Star Wars. There's a lot of just extended era franchises that are going on. Let me go watch like a Korean movie. Go watch
Exactly.
Train to Busan. Let me go watch, The Pianist. Or, and like those are I guess both like critically acclaimed movies, but like you know what I mean? Like
Nobody's
let me go
talking
watch
about that right now on Twitter. Like
I mean, nobody's talking about The Pianist because like
Nobody's
movie came
talking
out,
about
like,
the
yeah,
12
it's
years
old.
ago
yeah.
or whatever. But
I mean, it's great, but it's also old. Yeah.
but yeah, or like Life is Good or something. You know what I mean? Like there's a degree to which people are like, oh yeah, no, you should. And by the way, I said 3 billboards outside of Lansing, Michigan. It's not. It's 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. Totally different place. But like there's a lot of stuff like that where it's like when we started this show and then we decided, hey, we're into Marvel stuff. We're going to do spoiler cast for Marvel stuff. We're going to do spoiler cast for DC stuff. And like I wasn't going with other people because of my job. I was going during the day. I realized I really just like watching movies. Like, and whatever it is, I really enjoy that. And whether that's going for a big 3 hour long The Batman, film viewing, or whether that's just I want to just go sit alone in the theater at like 11:15 a.m. and watch like some small indie movie. Like, I just like that experience. There's just something interesting to me about that. And to another degree, I've also really kind of come back to my roots of reading books lately. And even like just reading comic books and stuff, like going to my local library and like perusing their comic aisle or like different books and things like that and finding interesting things to read and kind of dip into. And I feel the same way about video games and about indie games particularly. Like, they're really cool. Like, not everybody played Inscription last year, but that was a great game. Not everybody played Loop Hero. That was a great game. Like, that was a small game. It wasn't super involved. It wasn't this big AAA Elden Ring thing. And it definitely wasn't the zeitgeist, unless you were listening to this show.
Yeah.
In which case, Josh and I were just constantly talking about Loop
You're
Hero.
like, oh my god.
But like right
'Cause it
now,
is
I'm playing Variable Barricade, which is like a romance visual novel on Switch, just because like it looks cool. Like, why not? And I don't know. I think there's a lot of value in just like in the world of Elden Ring, just kind of exploring the space, wandering over and seeing, hey, is there something for me over here? Is there something for me in this small game that nobody's talking about? And I feel like there's an element of our jobs that like pushes us to play the AAA stuff, but like I'm never gonna play Horizon Forbidden West probably.
I probably won't.
I'm not gonna finish it.
And like I don't care. I'd much rather find like some cool little indie gem or something. And
I'd
not
rather
because
play
I'm
something
like,
that's gonna get its hooks in me than something that I feel
Yeah.
obligated to play. Is what it comes down
not
to.
because, and I was gonna say not
That
because
I
I'm a
didn't have to
hipster or
spend
anything.
$60 on, right?
Right.
I'm definitely
Or
not.
70.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a hipster, but just like I find a lot of value in exploring the space. And like, I've talked to a lot of people in the industry lately, and just like it's been obvious for like years now, since like I think early to midway through the PS4, Xbox One generation, that like indies are just doing more interesting things generally.
Yeah.
It
I don't think
seems
that's
like
very controversial.
big AAA games are like more risk averse than
Clutch
they've
my
maybe
pearls.
ever been. But I don't know. I think
I would say yeah. They're a lot more risk averse than they've ever been, but it's because the price of everything is so expensive. Like making games is much more expensive than it was, and it's about to become even more expensive.
wasn't it Sean Layden who was saying that? Like
I don't
before he
know.
left, Sony, he was like, AAA games are like just getting way too expensive to make. Like, this is just not. It's just not sustainable.
The
at some
jump to
point.
4K is killing them. Like
Yeah.
That
it's
too.
Just,
Yeah, because it's like it makes everything take twice as long. Also,
yeah.
And even then, you have games like, as much as I love Elden Ring, like the PC port is not good. Like, but
but on top of that, like you just also have way more competition. Where it's like we had when League of Legends got huge and Dota was coming back, everyone's like, well, we have to be the third pillar there, right? We have to compete. And so everybody made a fucking MOBA. And then when PUBG got big, everybody had to make a battle royale. And now there's only a couple that like really stuck around. But now it's like people are like just trying to find like that next engine that's going to like churn out money essentially, which isn't as exciting. But
I don't care how much people make on games. Like, I want people to be able to eat, but like, like I don't know. The big machines like Fortnite, I'm just like, I don't care. Like, no build mode is great because like I didn't care about building, but
sure. But yeah, it's a weird industry and a weird time to be a fan of games because I feel like we have more choice than ever, but at the same time,
we have more
like,
choice than ever, and I don't like any of it.
People aren't it's just like people aren't necessarily making choices. They're just like playing what everyone else is playing, I guess.
Yeah, I can play Destiny and embrace just the never-ending grind for more loot and more loot and more loot, or I can embrace Gran Turismo 7 and just pay $40 for one car
Is that a
on
real thing?
microtransactions. Yes.
Yep.
It is.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it fucking sucks. You can pay $70 for a game, and then they ask you
Or
to
you
pay
could get-
$40 for one car.
Or you could get Game Pass and you could just play Forza. Or you could just go buy Forza.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
you can just go buy it. Or you can get on Steam and get some sales. Or you can play Tunic on Game Pass. Or you can play Young Souls on Game Pass, which I'm going to talk about later in the show, at some point, whether now or later. But I think that it's important as people in the industry and as just like, I guess responsible. I mean, this is maybe a moralistic stance that I'm taking right now, but like as just like responsible consumers to not only responsibly participate in the AAA zeitgeist, but also try to be curators and discoverers of valuable small things that are precious.
Yeah. Sometimes it is worth it to go to your to go to Steam and look at some of the early access stuff and see like what is really popular at the time, because I found games that I never would have probably heard of ever and played them and been like, that was fun. Like I think that is a very useful tool to have. And obviously that's not like the best tool, but like there is a little bit of filtering there from the community saying like, hey, this thing is like pretty great, right? And most of the time those games are not things made by giant studios or by billion-dollar companies like Epic. They're like, 3 people made this dinky little pixel game that's $5 and you play it and then you end up putting 100 hours into it. Whereas like a lot of the AAA games, I feel like these days, I think Chris and I have the same exact experience where we spend like $60 on something and we end up playing it for 4 hours.
Yeah, the disc turns into a frisbee, and I'm like, cool.
Yeah.
That was not fun.
Whereas I look at what I do and I find myself playing games like just like free to play stuff and putting in like 1,000 hours into those. I'm like, I didn't spend any money and I'm still
like
going.
Path of Exile or whatever.
Yeah. Like I recently rebooted up Team Fortress 2 super randomly, just because
that is random.
Can't play. I'm still on my like Blizzard thing until Bobby's gone, so I'm like, can't play Overwatch. What can I play that's the next closest thing that's not like Paladins? I was like, I can, which isn't quite the same. It's like, I guess I can play TF2, and I jump back into it. I'm like, oh yeah, this game's fun as shit. I remember why I put like 500 hours into it in college because it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've been like dicking around with that a little bit and see. It's like, I'm with Chris. Just whatever you feel like doing, whatever your
do
heart
whatever the
is
hell you
telling
want
you to do in that moment. If your heart is like, man, I really want to play fucking Crazy Taxi on my Dreamcast, man, go for
sure.
it.
Yeah.
Like, live it, live your truth.
And that's a great thing. I mean, that's a big thing. That's been something that I've had to wrestle with as I kind of became more involved with the fighting game community. Because like now, one of the things that I want to do, like there are 2 things that I want to play right now. One is Elden Ring, which is a game that I've already platinumed, and the other one is Guilty Gear. Like, and it's been awesome. Like I've just been like, all right, this week I'm gonna play Soul Bad Guy. This week I'm gonna play Bikin. Next week I'm gonna play Ramblefall Valentine. You know what I mean? And it's something that I'm doing. It's something that I get together with my friends and say, hey, let's play together. Let's play this game. And because I'm having so much fun with this, I don't care about Horizon. Like I hear people be like, oh yeah, she kind of like talks about how to solve the puzzle if you just sit there for like 2 seconds. And I'm like, you know what? I don't want people spoiling my fun. I don't need to see that shit. I don't want a thing with a ton of markers on the map. I prefer something where I can explore and kind of discover things on my own, like Elden Ring, or I want to just have something where it's just me and my friends sitting down playing some sets in Guilty Gear. And that's been really fun for me. And realizing that like, I don't need to chase this. I don't need to play Horizon. I don't need to play whatever other AAA thing that comes out in 2 weeks. I'm just going to play Guilty Gear with my friends and just chill.
I have a challenge.
When I feel like doing something else, I'll do that.
I have a challenge for you and Josh and anybody listening.
Oh, great. Play.
Find 2 or 3 of your
Horizon.
friends. No. Find 2 or 3 of your friends. find a game that supports local multiplayer and have your friends come over in person and play that game. Because there's a good chance that most of you haven't done it in over 2 years.
Yeah,
That's a lie. I did it 2 months ago.
Yeah.
I played at Mario Kart 8 with a bunch of people and my niece, who like she's like 7 now, so she's old enough to think she's hot shit at like Mario Kart.
Write it down.
Which is really funny. So then like I my wife told me like, okay, settle down, because at one point when we booted up, she was like, what track do you want to play to everybody who's playing? And I was like, I don't know, just pick where you want to lose. It was so much fun. So I'm with you. Playing games in person, there is something great.
Bright side in the chat. If you're not playing Mario Tennis N64 on a Thursday night, are you even human? He was he came over to my house a couple weeks ago with a bunch of people, and like we played Mario Tennis for like 3 hours and just like passed controllers around, and it was just pure nonsense. It was amazing. But like those types of moments don't happen enough anymore. And I know a lot of it is because of COVID and people are still warming up to the idea of spending time with each other. But
yeah, as soon as Riley can be vaccinated, I am having people over. I'll tell you.
It is so.
And that day is fast approaching.
Yeah, it was just so much fun. And I forgot how much I enjoyed it. And as much as I enjoy sitting on, a Discord call or party chat or whatever, there's nothing like being able to look at the other person in the face and go telling them to go fuck themselves.
Oh, yeah? How about that? You fucking lost, bro.
Yeah. I don't care that you're 4. Eat my balls. Ah.
Jesus.
Oh, man. Confirmed. Chris is the worst.
Meanest uncle ever.
That's great. Lumbago in the chat earlier when we were talking about indie games and exploring that sort of stuff said literally playing Valheim right now. Core Keeper is a new one that also is really fun.
Core Keeper, I've played that.
I've heard like 3 people talk about that game today.
It's Vampire Survivors is like
Vampire
my favorite.
Survivors
like I
is
said,
also
$3 or $2.70 on sale, which is like
Dude, I talked about Vampire Survivors on this show. I'm still playing that game, and I only spent $3 fucking on it. I think I have. I'm gonna check now. My Steam's open. I have 32 hours in it. I thought I had more than that. But
wow.
The point is,
that's a lot though.
$3, right?
That's a third of a Persona game.
Yeah, like
what a unit of measurement.
Right? Core Keeper also. Think Core Keeper I got for like $12, and it's a neat little like it's very Minecrafty, but has like some mystery stuff to it. And you can play co-op with up to 8 people and stuff. Yeah, it's a neat little game. But yeah, there's tons of stuff like on Steam and just like out in the world that you can play. And that's not to say like if like what Brian was talking about, if you play, Smash Bros with your friends every Saturday and you have been for years and you're having fun, then who cares? You're doing what's in your heart, right? And if what's in your heart is playing all those PlayStation exclusives the moment they come out, then have a ball. But like
for sure, man.
I'm trying to reach out to
not
the
in
people
this
that
house.
They're playing stuff that they don't want to be playing, and then I want to say, why are you doing that? There's a whole world out there.
Yeah.
Of great stuff to do. And so much of it is free also, like, or super cheap.
Or as part of like a really inexpensive subscription service. Like we were talking about Game Pass, and we always talk about Game Pass because Game Pass is great. But Tunic is on Game Pass, which is a game that Josh has been talking a bunch about. Young Souls, which is a game that I'm going to talk about soon, is a game that is on Game Pass. Like, and you do also have the opportunity to have these sorts of AAA experiences day and date on there, which I think is a pretty good pivot point to talking about something that I was very excited to talk about last week, which is Project Spartacus is no longer a rumor. It's a thing.
Oh my God, I forgot we were even going to talk about that. And we're like an hour in.
But PlayStation Plus is becoming a new 3-tiered service. So we've got PlayStation Plus Essential, which is the way that PlayStation Plus is now. Then there's PlayStation Plus Extra, which I don't know if anybody's got it up, but I can pull it up if not. But PlayStation Plus Extra also includes like some other things. Like I think it's PlayStation Now
I got it.
is bundled. You got
they're
it? Okay.
discontinuing PlayStation Now, from what I understand it, and they're basically
Yeah.
lumping it into
Play-
PlayStation Plus.
Yeah,
In a
PlayStation
way.
PlayStation Plus Essential provides the same benefits that current PlayStation Plus members are getting today. PlayStation Plus Extra provides all the benefits from the Essential tier, adds a catalog of up to 400 of the most enjoyable PS4 and PS5 games, including
Which we don't know what they are.
including blockbuster hits from our PlayStation Studios catalog and third-party partners. Games in the Extra tier are downloadable to play. That is for $15 a month, $40 for a quarter, or $100 for a year. Then there's PlayStation Plus Premium, which this is like the big one that I think most people are interested in. Not in getting, but just like what it offers. Provides all the benefits from the Essential and Extra tiers, adds up to 340 additional games, including PS3 games available via cloud streaming. A catalog of beloved classic games available in both streaming and download options from the original PlayStation, PS2, and PSP generations. Offers cloud streaming access for original PlayStation, PS2, PSP, and PS4 games offered in the Extra and Premium tiers in markets where PlayStation Now is currently available. Customers can stream games using PS4 and PS5 consoles and PC. Time-limited game trials will also be included in this tier, so customers can try select games before they buy.
Select game trials.
Yes, and
Yeah.
also, yeah, okay, so
There's a lot. I just said a
the
lot.
price
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
The price isn't terrible for what that is, right? Because it could have been more expensive.
For $20 more a year compared to the other one, like I would just get the premium one.
Yeah.
Which is what they want you to do anyway.
They want you to do that anyway.
That being said, I'm not changing my
I'm
current
not.
subscription.
It's twice
I'll
twice
just
as expensive a year for a bunch of games that I don't know what they are.
Yeah.
And also, how many of them are downloadable versus streaming, and if they're downloadable, do they actually work correctly?
Well, if it's no, I mean it's
which
PS4 and
wouldn't necessarily be a
PS5 games are
question
downloadable.
If we hadn't experienced
Well,
what's going on with
they
PS5
mentioned
where
some of
stuff
the-
just doesn't work right.
Yeah, but they mentioned that some of the PS2 games, I think, and some of the PS1 games are also going to be downloadable.
Yeah, so what it
'Cause
sounds
they said
like
that in the Digital Foundry video I watched too, where they were
Right.
talking about this, and that part is like, that sounds great, but which ones are they, and will they actually work? Because based on, you know, what Brian just said, based on like a lot of the problems that the PS5 has had, like backwards compatibility and things like that being like a complete like it's pretty clear it was a complete afterthought. Like, are
how
these
good
even
is
gonna
the
work
emulation?
right?
Yeah.
How good is am I going to be better off just playing like Spyro on Bleem on my computer?
Probably.
Right?
No, and I
Yeah.
think that's their biggest problem.
And
is
that's
that
the sad part, is probably
yeah, like the biggest red flag to me is the fact that they still haven't gotten PS3 working through emulation, and I say that because RPCS3 has gotten, which is a PS3 emulator on Windows and Linux, has come very far. It's by no means is it perfect, but they've made like tremendous strides in getting games to run at like 60 frames a second that otherwise wouldn't on PS3 hardware.
I checked that emulator out the other day, but it seemed like the compatibility list still wasn't quite.
It's
as
pretty
big
small.
Yeah, it's not huge.
It's a lot of like PlayStation Minis and like PlayStation, like PSN games, like those types of titles. Some of the first party stuff.
Cell processor is difficult to work with notoriously. So like we get it, but PlayStation should definitely be putting in the effort and the money and the time to do it properly.
I think
that's the thing though, is like it is another one of those instances where like not a lot of people use it. But even though I'm on the side of you should do it, because I like the idea that I can put in my copy of, you know, some
Heavenly Sword
original Xbox, some original Xbox game that I own or something, and I can put it in my brand new Xbox and still play it, right? Like this thing I bought. decades ago. I
We talked
I,
about
I
respecting your time. This is respecting your money.
respecting your money, yeah,
Yeah.
and your investment, because yeah, like they brought up a good point on the Digital Foundry one where they're like, consoles have always been really bad at this, outside of like Sony for the longest time was on the best at it, and then Nintendo with the Game Boy
Yeah,
until they went
PS2 and
to the
then the
DS.
PS3 was great.
Now, excuse me, if you think about PC is probably it is the best at
Yeah.
backwards compatibility, and a lot of it's not even just it's because people like make it, right? So like if a game from 1994, doesn't really run, like people find a way to make it run. Like they have like DOSBox, like that emulator is huge and plays like probably, I would assume, just based on seeing the compatibility list, most old PC games, like old big box PC games, can be played through things like DOSBox.
Well, now you have
Or
like the
there's some
Mr.
like
Project
remastered
and
version. Yeah.
you have a lot of FPGA cores that people are really diving headfirst into now. We're
Or
like
even without
when that really when that gets like finished getting fleshed out. That's hard to say. It's the type of thing where like once that's done, like a lot of that front end work, like there's not going to be a need for anybody to have to reinvent the wheel on this. Like once we have the FPGA cores for like N64, PS1, like eventually we'll get to a point where it's like, all right, you have this one unit and it runs exactly like it did on original hardware, or as close as it can possibly get. Like it's not like, you have like these sound compression issues and all these other things that people like to point out whenever you're running emulation versus like traditional hardware. So like a lot of this is going to go away. Unfortunately, in the case of like the PS3 is like the redheaded stepchild with all this, because it's never, until computing gets so far ahead of where we are even now, and GPUs get so far ahead even now, like you have to have enough people that are interested enough in trying to support the damn thing. So like you have to have a community of developers that are going to be like, all right, computing's finally there, emulating cell processing like is no skin off our back, like whatever, or the hardwares for that matter, and you just have to have enough people that want to do it. Which at that point it's like, how many titles are we actually saving? Like it can't be that many. Like and I made this argument before, where yes, there are exclusive PS3 games that like are trapped on that platform, but I feel like it's like, do the ends justify the means? Like, are we really going to pour this many resources into getting 40 games back that haven't had an HD remaster at this point?
To them, it's not worth it.
Right.
Well, but even
then,
bottom
line,
it'll happen.
The HD
like,
remaster is different than the base game also.
Right.
Like,
sure.
There's an element to which I definitely agree with you that people probably feel this way, but I think that if there was any company that needed to care about it,
it's Sony.
It's the company that fucking owns the platform.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, but like I feel like I don't know, I can't even say that. I was going to say I feel like we tend to get more upset with Sony than any other platform holder. And I don't know that that's necessarily true, because we do get mad at Nintendo. It's just, I think with Nintendo it's expected. With Sony, we feel like it's been taken away from us. You know what I mean?
And also, I think that you are right. We are typically hard with Sony, but I think that is because Sony makes a lot of unforced errors. Like nobody forced them to make the cell processor. They did it themselves.
Yeah.
And then they didn't support it. And then they didn't figure out how to emulate for it.
Yeah.
And then they didn't like push people to like make ports. There are so many solutions, and they didn't opt to do any of them, except like just stream off of an ever decreasing volume of banked PS3s in some warehouse somewhere. But another thing with Nintendo is a lot of their classic stuff that people want to have access to is super easily emulated on everything down to fucking cell phones. Like if you want to play the best stuff that Nintendo has, a lot of it's on NES and SNES and N64, and that stuff is incredibly easy to emulate.
Even things that never came out here,
Yeah, exactly.
You can get them here, you know.
Yeah, you can definitely get them, and they cost basically nothing to like get running because those emulators have existed since time immemorial, you know.
Yeah.
I think the problem is that we run into the confluence of this stuff was just never bothered to bring forward. Some stuff got ported. You know, we've got Last of Us Remastered, which is great. We've got the, you know, the Nathan Drake collection, which is great. You know, and I'm for all of these things, but at the same time, we've got things like Persona 4 Arena, which like until Ultimax came out on Steam was something that was only available on, you know, PS3 and 360. And thankfully Xbox made that backwards compatible, but Ultimax was unavailable until Atlas decided to port it to Steam. And even then, it's the 2.0 arcade version from Japan. It's not the version from console. So like that version is still not available if you wanted to play 1.0. And you know, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's stuff like Fat Princess. There's like all this sort of like cool indie stuff that's just gone.
And I'm at, you know, maybe I have this stance because now like I have finally done the thing that I've been talking about doing for years where like I do have the emulation PC. Like I can play pretty much anything that I can think of anytime I want with like very little work at this point because I've already put in the work to get it set up.
You had to put that work in.
I had to put that work in, exactly. And that I think that's a very important point to stress because, you know, Sony's not putting in for it. And granted, I also still have my PS3 hardware, but
I wish I did, but it failed.
I think the point I'm trying to make is like,
I think
what's funny about that generation is like, even the games that I go back to, even the ones on 360, like there's very few of them that I go back to and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm going to play this to completion. Like I play it for an afternoon and then I'm like, all right, I got that out of my system. And then I move on. Like, and I think that's part of the reason. I mean, like Jim Ryan, and like, again, I'm not trying to take the defense on this at all. It's just like, this is why I'm not subscribing to this because I don't need to. Like Jim Ryan even said, he's like, no, we're focusing on the games that we're making now. Everything else, like whatever. And it's from a preservation standpoint, it's terrible. I'm fortunate enough that I have the ability to play those games still because I have my original hardware and I have an emulated PC. But for everybody else, like, yeah, it sucks. But with everything else that we have that comes out on a weekly basis, and in Game Pass. I mean, we're fortunate enough that we have, you know, Game Pass and Switch Online and whatever. Like, are you really itching that badly to play Haze again? Like,
what a random game to bring up.
And that's for some reason every time this conversation like comes up, that's the game I think of. Is I'm like, why we're arguing over this for Haze? Like, who cares? There's so many other things to play.
You know what else was on PS3? Journey.
But
that got a better port. That's what I mean. Like, and that's the argument for a lot of these games.
Yeah. But while I get that, I think the other part of it is that, you know, people grow up like buying all these games and then they just become these things that sit on a shelf. They're not like a thing that you can go back to. Whereas like if you buy a DVD, weirdly enough now 20 years later, that DVD still works in your brand new thing and you can
that
still,
is valid.
It's gonna kind of look like crap on your 4K TV.
But I can put it in my PS5 and it still works.
I can pop my DVD and I can still watch my copy of whatever like now. Now I might want to upgrade to the new one, you know, and pay money, you know, to get like Lord of the Rings Blu-rays or whatever have you, right? Because I want it to look good or it has new features or something. That is totally valid. But like the idea that like the thing that I bought when I was
leaning, Chris,
15 now doesn't work anymore, or you know, works but not quite the same. I think that's lame, and it's more valid with like when you're saying we're going from cartridges to CDs, right?
The 4K release of Lord of the Rings looks amazing.
It does.
That's all I wanted to say.
When you're going from a cartridge to a CD format or whatever, totally valid. But like now we're in this age where we own like all these games digitally, right? And we've bought a lot of us bought like Super Mario Brothers for the 5th time on the Wii shop, and now we don't have it again. And they're like, hey, you could subscribe to this thing on the Switch and get it again. I'm like, dude, I've bought this game 5 or 6 times.
But okay.
You know, but you know
You
what
know.
I'd like to have access to? And this is like kind of a fuck you to the Haze argument. You know what else is trapped on PS3? Fucking Infamous. Infamous
I was
2.
waiting for you to bring that up.
Infamous Festival of Blood. Those are 3 bangers, and I can't play them.
Those
They are
are
bangers.
there are like if I were to pick a couple franchises that like I can't believe they never did HD re-releases for on the PS4. It's those. It's Sly Cooper. Heavenly Sword, I really thought like they were gonna try and like revitalize that. I think they
But you
didn't
got
because
Jim
of
Ryan
it.
at the top saying, "Why would you want to play that? Old game is old."
Yeah,
That old
He's
game
basically an
that
internet
is like,
troll.
yeah.
yeah, that old game that like people in my company worked hard on,
Yeah,
even
yeah.
though, you know, good or bad, right?
No Girl
But
Chill
like
said,
still,
"Isn't one of the Metal Gears only on PS3?" Yeah, Metal Gear 4, Metal
Yep.
Gear Solid 4,
Yep.
Guns of the Patriots is only on PS3. Now, thankfully for me, that's my least favorite, so I don't care. It can be trapped there forever. But I know
Yeah, I don't
people
like-
who love that one.
I don't like 4 or 5 either, but that doesn't mean other people shouldn't be allowed to play it.
Sure.
Mr.
Especially if they
Mr.
bought
Hergy
it
and chat
way
says,
back
"Can you
in the
believe
day.
they didn't do an HD re-release of Link's crossbow training?"
Can you believe that they
Bringing it
haven't
back.
bring it back? They're re-releasing
believe-
Switch Sport or Wii Sports with Switch Sports. I want Breath of the Wild style Link's crossbow training on the Switch. Make it happen, Nintendo.
But I want an open world like Breath of the Wild where like I can wander, and if I want to go to the final crossbow training section straight out of the gate, I can do it.
Yep.
You know.
Hey,
And if I want to go
speaking of
roast
that,
some
though-
apples, I can do that either.
all the things aside, because it was like a mess at launch, but Master Chief Collection is like the perfect
Example of how to do it.
example of like preserving an old game where it's like, hey, I want to jump to, I remember this tank level in Halo 2 and I really want to play that again. And instead of having to go
Yeah.
through the whole thing, like, all right, here you go. What a concept. Like,
They even made cross
games
game
like
playlists.
DVD menus,
Here's
right?
every vehicle mission. Here's
I
every
will-
mission in all the games where you play all through all the
I'm
tanks.
still gonna bring up my complaint that I've brought up before, though, is that I hate that I can't put in my original Halo disc into the Xbox or the
I think
Xbox
that's
Series
dumb
X.
too. I'm
Like,
with
just let me
you.
do it. You used to let me do it.
I am with you, and I think that's stupid.
Yeah.
Um,
That
and they should change
menu,
that.
there's something like religious about the menu in Halo 1 and the loading screen in Halo 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very simple, but
Yes.
it's got everything you need.
Yep.
You pick your color, you pick your dumb name, you're off.
You're good to go.
You know? You're good to go. Yeah, it's I do think that thing is
So
stupid.
all of this
yeah.
being said,
Yeah, we need to go back to the
we need to go back to the actual thing at
topic
hand. I will not be subscribing to anything beyond the
I'm
original
not going
PlayStation
to.
Plus.
I'm not going to.
Brian,
I am going to stay subscribed until the last of my friends is not playing Elden Ring anymore, and then I'm probably gonna cancel PS Plus
Wow.
altogether.
yeah.
I've gotten close to getting rid of PS Plus, but the problem is that a few of my friends who I don't play games with that often, but play with them enough to justify having to own it. Like, don't have they have kids, they have a PlayStation. That's what they have, you know.
Yeah.
Like, they don't get to play
Yeah.
games that often, but when they do, they have their PlayStation and they're like, we're gonna play Battlefront or we're gonna play like Fall Guys or something, and it's like, okay. So like I can justify it for that and like occasionally getting a free game or whatever, but
It's
I'm
been
with you,
so long
Brian.
Since they put something on PS Plus that I actually cared about enough to try.
I don't even know what the games this month are, if I'm being
You know what's on
Slay
there?
the Spire
be
is
honest.
one, which
Yeah,
is
Slay-
good, but like I've already
Oh, Slay
got
the
that
Spire is
3
great.
different times.
SpongeBob
Yeah.
SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom is another one. It's a great third
That's
person
a
platformer.
fucking Chris
That's a
Shriver game.
Chris Shriver ass game if I've ever seen
Yeah.
one.
Yep.
Yeah.
But you should play
And then I think
Slay
Hood is the
Spire,
last
'cause it-
one.
Yeah,
I think
Hood's the
Hood is
last one, which I
Um,
have not played.
That's that Ubisoft multiplayer thief game.
Yeah.
Oh, that came out.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Lumbago said Slay the Spire is also on Game Pass. I'm pretty sure it was.
is.
I don't know if it still.
I don't know if it is.
I think it still
definitely
is.
was.
I think it was on. I think
It's
Epic
on
gave it
both.
away as well at one point.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty sure
PC
it's
or
still
console.
on. I'm pretty sure
Which
it's
is a
still
great
on
game.
Game Pass because I still
When
jump into it every so often.
When I was in the throes of my RSI, that was one of the games that I could play without feeling pain.
Yeah.
So that was
Well, yeah,
that was a really. I'm always gonna remember Slay the Spire for that one.
I have a random question.
Yeah.
Did anybody play Super Meat Boy Forever? Because that game came out and I feel like no one talked about it.
No, I
It
played
has
only Super Meat Boy the original when it came out on 360, and it
It
was like
still
all the
says
rage.
coming soon on Steam, so I have not played it.
Oh, it's been on Switch for a while. I think it's on Epic Game Store. I think they. Oh, you know what? Yeah, I think Epic Game Store had like an exclusive,
Okay.
like a timed
I was gonna
exclusive
talk
thing
to
with
Team
it.
Meat to review that one because I played it on at PAX.
Yeah, I keep
and
forgetting
I-
that it came out, and then I see it, and I'm like, "Ooh, should I get that?" And then I don't.
And I talked to Edmund. I had fun with it. I played I think the first level of that game at PAX during our interview.
Yeah.
And I had a really good time with it. I really, really like it. Of just what I played, I haven't played the final build, but I should reach out to them and see if I can get a key for that because I enjoyed it. I'd love to cover it.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting because it kind of, in some ways it's easier and in some ways it's harder than Super Meat Boy because it sets the pace, which means you know it can be done.
Right.
And all you have to do is jump or do your punch. So I actually found it kind of more, I mean, this might speak to you, Chris. It's kind of rhythm-like because
Is it like
you
the
always,
Rayman levels?
everything always comes at the, yeah, it's like the Rayman levels. Everything always comes at the same time. Like when you fail, it's like, okay, jump and punch and jump and jump. You know what I mean? Like because it's got that rhythm to it, it did feel kind of rhythmic. But yeah, I don't know.
That's fast.
I mean, I know his buttons. I know Chris's buttons.
Oh wow, this is cool. I didn't know they did this.
What?
I'm just on Best Buy. They have these are really cute. They have physical. I'll share my screen real quick. Hold on. Display. All right, maybe I won't.
Lumba has a question.
Okay, while you're yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
It says to sort of question what PlayStation is doing. Like if those games are already pretty widely available on other platforms, is it going to be worth it?
Yeah, and that is the thing because if you are interested in, I mean, I think the short answer is if you're one of the people for whom PlayStation is your main platform, this is kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, I mean, this is your Game Pass.
If you don't own an Xbox, if you don't own a PC, if you don't own a Switch, if you're just a PlayStation gamer, like this is kind of the option that you have because you're embedded in the system.
I get that. The thing that irks me slightly, I think, is that they say it has like 400 to 700 games, none of which they list, right? They're just like, oh, they're PlayStation games. But a lot of those games are probably things that people don't necessarily, we shouldn't preserve.
That's
art,
very
right?
cute.
But like,
the game plush.
Isn't that cute?
Extremely cute.
They have a bunch
That's
of them.
cool.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
A lot of those games are probably things that like people don't really care about or like aren't, things we necessarily want to go back to. You might want to go back to just for like chuckles or something, right?
I feel like so much of this depends on the actual list.
Yeah. But then it's like they mention that a lot of they're all streaming. All these games are streaming, but like some of them are downloadable, but I bet you the ratio of download to stream is incredibly low. Like I bet there's only a couple of games that
it depends on if this is PS Now or if this is them trying to turn over a new leaf. But because of the tiered system, I have a hard time believing.
I really think it's just PS Now tacked onto PS Plus.
Yeah, it's a rebranding and it's them deploying a licensed emulator for PS1 and PS2 games. That's all it is.
Yeah. That will hopefully work correctly.
Yeah.
And
if it is just that, I'm gonna be real disappointed.
It's
on
exactly
top of that too,
prepare.
that no one's really talking about, and I'm sure there's not that many of them, so there's probably not a lot of eyeballs on this. But if you're someone who only paid for PS Now, you were paying for basically the equivalent of what someone was paying for PS Plus, you're just straight fucked. Like, you don't get to have PS Now anymore without basically paying double the price for something you're probably not going to use. Again,
You're going to be paying twice as much for the same
Well,
service,
wait.
basically.
Yeah.
No, that's not true. Because
yeah, it is.
PlayStation Now was always a separate thing.
It's not anymore.
No,
That's
no,
part of the. That's part of
Oh,
getting
I
rid of-
get what you're
yeah.
saying. I get what
So
you're saying.
if you were paying $60 a year for PS Now, and you just were like, I don't care about PS Plus, I just
Yeah,
want to play
got
my
you.
whatever, you're screwed now. You basically have to like pay them twice the amount of money to get the exact same service,
Yeah.
or just don't have the service anymore.
Mumjum
which-
asked a very good question. What game could they include that would make it worth it for you? For me, it's
not about one game.
Well, no, and it's not about one game. It's having
Let me.
if they had a proper PS3 emulator, I'd get it day one. Like I would be waving a PlayStation flag from my balcony if they did that.
If I could play games I bought digitally on my PS3 now on my PS5 and they actually worked, I would be more into it. But why should I have
Why
to
should
pay
you have
more
to pay
that?
for that?
I
Yeah.
already paid for the game,
Yeah.
right? So like that still doesn't make it okay. That still doesn't make me like excited about it. That just I'm like, I already paid for, I already bought Last of Us on PS3 when it came out on my, digitally. Why should I have to buy it again?
Yeah.
Just so because it works on a
No,
different box.
why
I
should I have
that
to
other
rent
box.
it
I can
again?
go play it right now.
Yeah. Because that's really what
Yeah,
it
and
is.
to rent it again, yeah. Which is just like they make it sound appealing when they're like, look at all the games you're getting, but then you think about it, you're like,
to 700.
but you don't know what the games are. You don't know how they run well. You don't know which ones are downloadable. And on top of that, you don't own them. They're not games that you bought previously.
You know
and
what
you're
I
not
hadn't thought about?
getting to play them. What hadn't you thought about? It's just not a good deal. That's what I'm ending with. I'm not
You know
into
what
it.
I hadn't thought about? I hadn't thought about the fact that a lot of these PS3 games, particularly the ones that were also available on 360, didn't run that well. There are
No,
a
they
lot
don't.
of PS3
They don't
games that
run
did
well.
not run well. So unless they are emulating it in an environment where it will run better than it ran on the original PS3, which is not universally true on PS5, no people who are in the know, who are me, who are big into Guilty Gear and Elden Ring, will note that the best way to play that is not to play the PS5 version, is to play the PS4 version of Guilty Gear Strive and Elden Ring on PS5. Sony is not great at optimizing this sort of stuff.
And they're not going to do this for all those
That's not
games.
completely true.
It's not completely true,
No,
but it is
like-
at least partially
Well, no,
true.
I mean sure, and what I say, the reason I say that is the reason I keep saying the PS5 is one of my favorite consoles of all time is because it's the best PS4 I've ever owned. Like the majority of PlayStation 4 games that I am interested in playing run significantly better on the PS5. It's just a fact.
That's true. That is true for some of them, yeah.
Yeah.
We should move on from this because we
should.
we
We
have
should. We've
we
been on
have
this for a
talked
long
about
time.
this
I'm just
to
going to say
to death in other episodes as well.
I don't think this is a great deal, and I think that it doesn't do much for game preservation. Like, it'll do some, but not nearly enough.
Yeah.
The fact
It's
that
just
they're
it's not worth it.
streaming and that it's a subscription service means it's not really doing anything for preservation. In my
it's
opinion.
doing something technically because they're like the games are still playable.
It's accessible,
but
but
it's,
like
like,
as soon as they
not
shut the
good
servers
enough.
off, then they're not again.
Exactly.
And Sony
Like,
has
when
demonstrated
we're
that
on-
they don't have a problem with just
when
doing
we're on
that.
like PS7, like, and they're like, well, remember that copy of Miles Morales you bought?
yeah,
Just gone.
which sucks.
Yeah, it does suck.
To
It's stupid.
answer Mumjum's question, I think it would need to have, like Chris said, there isn't one game that would do it for me. However, if they had like the entirety of the Infamous games available for download, including the DLC Festival of Blood, and they had like those sorts of things, like I don't know, Catherine's available on PC and back compat on Xbox now. Like a lot of these things have been kind of answered by Xbox's backwards compatibility initiative.
For me,
Like,
a lot.
of this stuff
It's
is
a
just
lot
like,
of the PS3 exclusives. It's Killzone 2. It's Killzone 3.
yeah,
Infamous.
What's also dumb to me is that a lot of
Cat
those
Princess.
games that they list are things that I probably bought
Yeah.
digitally. Even PS1 games on my PSP or my Vita, which is also absent from the list, by the way.
Yeah.
Like that copy of Symphony of the Night that I own on PSN that I could play on my PS3 or on my PSP, like if that's on there and I'm not allowed to play it and it's a downloadable game that I have to pay a subscription to play, that's even worse. Like that's even more of a slap in the face because it's like you're telling me that this thing works and I can download it and I paid for it a long time ago, so why can't I play it? Oh, because I'm not subscribed to this thing.
Yeah.
That is incredibly stupid, and I'm not a fan of that. So, but
Yeah.
we'll see because this game list is going to come out, and I bet you that this will be a problem that people have not really thought about.
Well, and it's also like this will change over time. Like just because it is
Sure.
what it is right now, it is not like people are gonna get mad on the internet like they always do, and then Sony's gonna do something else, and then by the time they figure it out, we're all moved on. Like, it's just the way that they've been this whole generation. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Lumbago kind of in the chat kind of speaks to something that I was going to say, which is Steam Deck may change a lot of things too, making PC more attractive to people who have historically preferred mobile or Switch.
Yeah.
This is one of the things that I was going to mention as you were talking about this. This is a huge thing that has pushed me towards playing on PC because I am realizing, I realized this years ago, but it is becoming more and more evident how fickle these console manufacturers are and how willing they are to just cut our legs out from under us on stuff that we've paid for. Because as soon as my PS3
pay for it again.
Exactly. As soon as my PS3 died, I'm like, okay, I took extremely good care of this thing, and it died through no fault of my own. It just stopped working. And now all of the stuff that I had on there is unavailable to me unless I buy a new PS3, which is something that outside of this small handful of games is basically a paperweight to me. And then
Mine's in that box. Oh no, the box is in the other room. Never mind.
There's other things out there like and this is something that I was going to talk about earlier. People who approach the PC landscape with that same idea towards preservation and availability and consumer focused like kind of business practices. As much as you may hate CD Projekt Red, GOG or GOG or Good Old Games has been focused on bringing older PC games into the front where you can buy them legitimately and
they
then
actually
you just have them. They actually work. You're buying them. They're DRM free. You can just download the file and you just have it. You can move it between however much of whatever that you want. And that is awesome. And between that and emulation, like there is a degree to which I have felt kind of like my hand has been forced to go to PC gaming because I don't just want to be beholden to Nintendo or Sony when they decide to turn games that I've bought into something that it requires a subscription service for. Like how many times have any of us bought Link to the Past or Super Mario World? And now we have to have this. Now, granted, the subscription for Nintendo Switch Online is cheap and you can also play stuff online and they've added like new cool stuff. Like here's like a modded version of this where you begin Metroid 1 with all the weapons and all the armor and you can just do whatever you want. Like that stuff is cool.
Also probably
Nintendo
a
has
ROM
done
for
stuff
that too.
but yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that that's important to think about. Really think about what you are trading away for for allowing yourself to be invested so heavily in these ecosystems.
As someone who owns these games on the original hardware, on the Switch subscription service, and through emulation, like I am surprised how often I do go and play it on the Switch. Like just having
if you have it, the Switch is great.
There, right?
But it's like it's the convenience of it. It's the fact that I can dock and undock. Like I wonder how much of that is going to change when I do have my Steam Deck. If that becomes my new like thing for all of this. But when it first came out, I was like, I'll subscribe to it for a year and we'll see what happens. And I played all Banjo-Kazooie. I've been playing a lot of Mario Tennis. Mario Golf comes out next week or maybe this week. And like I have an N64, an HDMI modded N64 sitting in the living room hooked up, and I'm just like, no, I'll play it on Switch. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Which is fair.
Yeah.
It's because it's more convenient to have it all in one place, which is why I think people want the ability to play their old, especially their old digital games, or if it's a CD game, they want to be able to play those on just things they have.
Yeah.
Um,
But I think, I do agree. The Steam Deck, I think, is going to be the big thing for a lot of people. We should move on from
I've
this,
been waiting
though.
for it.
And
Yeah,
I do have something I want to bring up.
okay.
We got an announcement yesterday for a game that I'm like kind of mad is going to exist possibly someday.
Here we go.
I'm like I saw it and I was like, they're doing it. They're really doing it. They're doing it.
Of course they're doing it.
We got a trailer for Kingdom Hearts 4.
I know, a game I didn't think was actually going to be real.
And a game that like I don't know. I mean, there are some Kingdom Hearts fans that are like, hell yeah, like, and more power to them. But like, I don't know who this game is for, because I feel like the majority of the people that I know that played Kingdom Hearts 3 and like were there from the beginning, at least people in my life, they played Kingdom Hearts 3 and were severely let down by it. And then this trailer comes out and it's like, why Sora looks so weird?
Hey, I'm raising my
why
hand
are
right
we
now
why are we
because
in the why are we in the real
hated
world
Kingdom
now?
Hearts.
Why are we in the real world? Why is any of this happening? Why do I care? Why is the font different? Like, it.
I'm so glad that you brought this up, because I am in a unique position to be able to speak to this. Because as we're well aware, I played Kingdom Hearts 3 and talked about it on this show, and that is, reflecting on it now, maybe one of my biggest disappointments in media ever.
Yeah.
Kingdom Hearts 2 was like a 10 for me forever. I was a
Kingdom
teenager
Hearts
when
2
I played
is still
it.
a great game.
It is. Kingdom Hearts 2 significantly better than Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yeah.
Substantially. But yeah, what you were smiling about something, Chris?
Oh, Mum Jum in the chat. Can it possibly live up to the hype? Not hype, expectations.
And let me tell you something. I saw Kingdom Hearts 4 announced, and I rolled my eyes out of my head and across the floor and out the door, and they've not come back yet. But then I watched the trailer, and I'll tell you, a lot of stuff in the early Kingdom Hearts 3 trailers that I didn't like, a lot of the stuff that was in the final game that I didn't like, is conspicuously absent from this trailer.
Like what?
There is no, I'm summoning a giant carousel
Ferris wheel
made out of rainbow colors to smash into the boss.
Listen, that is the Electric Light Parade, and that is a Disney like staple.
How dare you?
That's fucking great, Josh. I don't want it in my Kingdom Hearts game.
That's what it is.
That is what it is. That is what it is.
I'm of the mind. I really like Kingdom Hearts, but I also didn't really like 3 that much. Like it
gave more questions than answers.
It felt like they tried to like really wrap up all. They were like, man, we got way too like out of step on a tangent here, and we need to wrap this all up, you know? So it was like all of this just kind of nonsense.
And they wrapped it up in the last 2 to 3 hours of the entire game.
Yeah.
And then put out DLC trying to explain more of it.
Yeah.
Which is crazy because Odell, former guest host of this very show, was like, yeah, the DLC was better than 80% of this game. And I'm like, why didn't you make it the game then?
Yeah.
I literally sold, I beat the game. I immediately ran out and sold it. To just get rid of it, get it out of my house, because it was cursed.
Wish, and I think we talked about this at the time, my wish was that we would kind of just be done, or that Kingdom Hearts would sort of just evolve into something completely different. Like the way that they sort of show, like there's some implications at the end of 3 that like we're only in this one kind of cone of millions of endless cones or whatever. And I'm like, oh great, so we can go literally somewhere else and we don't have to do like this synthesis of, sorry, my hat's being weird, but we don't have to do this synthesis of Disney and Final Fantasy anymore. As much as I love both of these things, like we can actually just have Kingdom Hearts be Kingdom Hearts
Which I would love.
and go from there. And I'd love that too. Honestly, I would
Guess
love
what?
them to just, but they're not really doing that.
Yeah.
So that
See-
was like a little, and then I saw it was like this hyper realistic looking thing, and I'm like,
I feel
Kingdom
like
Hearts has never been that. It's always been like
No.
a cartoon.
Yeah.
Like, it looks weird.
Well,
to
and
me.
honestly, it's not. They're not leaning fully into either one. Like it's almost hyper realistic, but it's just off putting enough where it's like
just off enough.
Is it a cartoon? Like they could have. I said this
it's
to Jess.
New Donk City.
They could have made this look like, and maybe not 1-to-1 art style, but closer to Final Fantasy VII
would be-
Remake. And I feel like that would have made more sense than what it is.
Yeah. I was gonna say it would be New Donk City if Sora still looked exactly the same.
Yeah.
Like big clown
Yeah.
shoes, big dork, like, here
Yeah.
we go. And then it's like we're in Osaka, right? But like it's not like that.
Like it's weird that
it's-
Donald and Goofy look like CG versions of themselves, and then Sora
Can I
just
tell you? Can I tell you how angry I was when I saw the stinger at the end that had them in it?
did you figure out who they're talking to? Like I assume I know what is going to happen at least in that section of this game, is that they think Sora is dead, and they go look for him in the underworld, and Hades is there.
Well, I mean, there's, I didn't pay that close of attention to that, but the interesting thing is the implication in the trailer that he is dead.
Yeah,
Because whoever it was,
it's
that
like
he's
the
with
afterlife or whatever.
in his apartment, that people on the internet have found where that apartment is in Japan.
Oh, really?
Which is hilarious to me. But the woman that he's talking to is basically like, yeah, this world is kind of like an afterlife.
Yeah.
Which is interesting, and I like that idea. Like, I think that's interesting. And I do think that, the idea of like it not necessarily needing to be Disney plus Kingdom Hearts, of it actually being its own thing, which like for years I have said I wish that Kingdom Hearts leaned into the stuff that was unique, because I think that's where it's at its best.
Right.
Like Hollow Bastion, the what is it, the
world
Land
that never
Between
was.
Worlds, or like the world that never was. That all of that
Destiny
stuff is the
Islands.
stuff that's the most interesting to me.
Yeah.
That is the
I'm
stuff
with
where
you.
like the game feels like its own thing. When it's not just, oh, I'm gonna go to this, Alice in Wonderland world and just rehash the plot of that game, or like a variant of the plot of that game.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to the Tarzan world. That stuff is profoundly uninteresting to me. The only things that are so cool about Kingdom Hearts are the things where Nomura is just like, yo, what if I invent a land in like Twilight Town, where it's just like, it's never not midday here, because this is not a real place. Like the world that never was is just like, and the idea of like nobodies. Like the idea of like, okay, you've been separated from your soul. What does that mean when people are separate from their souls? When they don't
Yeah, but
really have
then-
emotions?
But then
you
they
know?
had to go and make like 5 different versions of that and be like,
Yeah.
there's
And
nobodies.
all of that
and
was
then
like,
there's
these are all
this, and it's
iterations
like,
of a single character. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's dumb.
This
But
is why, like, to me, the first game is my favorite one, because it's the most like just cohesive package. Like, it's so simple, where you have the Keyblade. There's not like 50 million thousand of them, right? You
Right.
have the one. You have to go like the doors of the world open, and it lets through like, dark entities and stuff. So you have to go fight them, and you have to close the door.
You have to get the 7 hearts from all the
That
Disney
is
princesses.
We can cut that part out. But the thing is, like,
you got to sing in what's his face's undersea symphony.
I just,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Ursula's
I like
real
that
big.
game, even though that game like suffers from some like not great level design and the platforming's really bad. There's a lot that's charming and very unique about that first game that I love.
Yeah.
But I do feel like as the series goes on, it got more and more mired in its own lore and tried really hard to be like, well, we have a new game and they can't be like heartless and they can't be nobodies, so we got to make like a third one that's this thing.
It's like, what
So
are
they
the
just
harmonies
kept-
or
they kept
dissonance
just
or notes or whatever? Yeah.
Yes, and it's like you don't need all this. Like there can just be new kinds of heartless, right? Like we can just
Yeah.
keep doing that. We don't have to keep And it's like they just kept adding on and adding on. So like
Halo
the
did
thing
it.
that I dread, the thing that I dread the most, yeah, and like
Which
to
is
not
really
great
annoying.
effect, right? Um, the thing that I just dread the most about like another Kingdom Hearts, as much as I love it and have like a huge soft spot for it, is just more of that. Like I want them to really like either do a full hard reboot or to do something completely different and take it in a totally different direction, but doesn't seem like they want to do that, other than the fact that it looks like we're in like actual Tokyo or somewhere, right?
Well, I don't
Like,
think it or
And
its
this is the
two
thing I
mobile
wanna-
games are going to do that.
This is what I want to get into, is because this is not the same arc. This is the beginning of a brand new arc. This is the Lost Master arc, not the Dark Seeker saga. So
Sure.
there is an opportunity here to I mean, Chris, you're jerking off over there, but everything up until now has been a part of one saga and a part of
but
one
not
story
like
arc from
not
the beginning to end.
initially like planned as one, like
No,
thought of as one
and it's
after the fact.
super
right?
messy.
Here's
And it's super messy.
here. I'm gonna
But
stop.
the
I'm gonna
idea
stop
that
you
this
right
could-
here. I'm gonna stop you
up.
right here.
I haven't been able to talk this whole time. Shut up. Listen. There's the likelihood that this is actually going to be something of a soft reboot is way higher than it would have been for Kingdom Hearts 3 or something else, because this is specifically a new arc, a new story. He starts totally separated from these people. It is in a real world place. I think there are a lot of things to take from this trailer that actually give me hope over what we got in Kingdom Hearts 3. Because it does look different, because it does look more realistic, because there isn't a bunch of light shows going on, because he's not with Goofy and Donald and all these people, because we don't see the Little Mermaid swimming through the skies. Like, because
I think you're going to be sorely disappointed if I'm being
I probably will,
honest.
but I think that the likelihood that we're going to get something from this that I might actually enjoy more is higher than I thought possible before I saw it.
Are going to get a Kingdom Hearts game with more realistic set pieces like Star Wars and Marvel and possibly the Muppets.
I'd be here for the Muppets, though.
I think that's what it's going to be. I think it's going.
Now, is it going to be the live action Muppets with what's his face from How I Met Your Mother?
Like,
oh,
you telling me I'm
Jason
gonna run
Segel?
around with Rizzo the rat, and he's gonna be like, "Hey man, come on!"
I would love that.
Are we gonna get Muppet Treasure Island?
That's a dream.
Hey,
don't
Treasure Island slaps.
If they do
That's
Muppet
great.
Treasure Island, I'll lose my mind. But they'll never do that.
With Tim Curry?
Yeah,
Come on,
dude, that's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like,
it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's an incredible movie.
He's not the best Long John Silver, but he's a very damn good one.
Yes, he is.
He's my favorite.
No, but I think that's what talking through this now, I think that is what makes the most sense. Is they're going to come out, they're going to do the Star Wars thing, they'll do the Marvel thing, and then whatever other realistic Disney properties are out there. And then whatever Donald and Goofy have going on, I could see them visiting like cartoon Disney worlds and doing that with like Kyrie or something like that.
Yeah. There's not a world in which there is no Disney in Kingdom Hearts, because the main Kingdom Hearts characters are literally owned by Disney.
Yeah. Like that's
They're
never
not
going
owned by
away.
Square. So
And,
that's partially why I was like, man, it would be interesting if they just took like a lot of these core ideas and just made a new like IP out of it. Or if they did like a full hard reboot and they're like, no, we're gonna do characters that we actually like own.
Yeah.
You know, like instead of playing Sora, who we've been playing as since I was in junior high school and I'm now 31, what if there was like a new kid or something, right? Like, think of that. I don't know.
I think it's interesting that. So what I was going to say when I was freaking out at Brian was that I shouldn't have to rely on playing a mobile game or two different mobile games and the mainline games across God knows how many different platforms across God knows how many years.
Yeah.
Just to get the full gist of what the hell is going on.
And you don't even really get the gist.
And you don't, because I've played almost all of them and I still don't understand what's going on in those
I played
games.
every mainline, every numbered entry, plus Chain of Memories and Birth by Sleep, and I was lost for most of Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yep.
Yeah.
which should not be the case. If you played Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2 and went into Kingdom Hearts 3, you should be good.
Mom, jump in the chat. Donald and Goofy travel to Colombia and run around behind the walls in the Encanto house looking for Bruno.
We don't talk about Bruno around here. Also, let me tell
that'll
you,
probably be in there.
That
dude.
one got me good.
as somebody who watched Encanto fairly recently, can I just say how upsetting the treatment of Bruno is in that movie? It made me so legitimately really angry.
Yeah.
It is. It's bad. But that's part of the movie, right?
Nobody
That
likes
is
to
the-
get
that is
bad,
part of the
bad news.
Part of
That
the
is
arc.
part of the point. Yeah.
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 But man, what a good boy Bruno is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Such a shame.
We were
Yeah,
when we were
yeah.
doing the office and I had to like spackle all the holes. I kept looking at Jess.
Whoa, what?
I kept looking at Jess. I was like, "My name is Jose. I make the spackle." Every time I do it, she was like, "God
Pretty
damn
good.
it,
Pretty
It
good.
was like, shut up.
shut up and spackle."
Are you
swine.
guys ready for me to talk about Young Souls?
Did
Yeah,
you
'cause we should
talk
probably
about this
wrap up
last
soon.
episode?
I talked about my first impressions, but I have now beaten the game.
Okay. Yeah, we should do this and then we should wrap.
Yes. I know it's the hour grows late, and Gandalf the Grey comes to Isengard to seek
Gandalf
my
the
counsel.
Grey needs to go make ramen.
So I've been playing Young Souls. I've been playing it. I have it on Switch and on PC. I was sent a code from our lovely friends over at Tinsley PR, who are fantastic and keep giving me review keys for bangers that I love. And I will say, this is really interesting. It is on Xbox Game Pass right now. I don't know if it's on the PC version, but it is definitely on the console version. But it is a side-scrolling beat 'em up. This is a game that I played at my at an appointment at PAX 2018. This is another one of those classics, like Grease and Below and Tunic, that I played ages ago and just disappeared. Young Souls disappeared for ages, and then I was finally able to play it, and it's so much fun, you guys. It's so much fun. It's a side-scrolling beat 'em up, like I was talking about, but it's not quite like any side-scrolling beat 'em up that I've played before. So previously, I've played a couple of these beat 'em ups for the show, like Streets of Rage 4 and games like that are like more pure arcade experiences. And there's some other ones that I'm looking forward to that are along those same lines, like TMNT Shredder's Revenge, that I fucking cannot wait to play. I'm so excited for that game. This is different. This is like what if you fused Streets of Rage 4 with like Sekiro, which is like a really weird comparison to make. But the idea is that this is a side-scrolling beat 'em up where you can get loot, you can get equipment, and not like randomized loot drops like Diablo, but like you beat a boss and you get a specific weapon. Or you go to one of the shopkeepers and you buy a specific piece of armor and stuff like that. And you can upgrade that armor, you can upgrade those weapons, and they unlock new abilities. Maybe you'll unlock, when you upgrade it twice, you'll get like vampirism or something where you hit an enemy and you get some life back. Maybe you'll get one where you'll have like a special ability that you can spend your mana on that like summons two little spiders that run around and help you as you're beating it up. And you take damage like in like a tag fighting game like Dragon Ball FighterZ, or in like Bloodborne or something. You'll take damage that's not permanent, and then you switch out. You actually control two characters. It's twins, one boy and one girl. And you switch between them, and while they're out, they will heal the other one up. If they die, you can also come across, like you're in Castle Crashers, and like smash the button on them and bring them back to life. You have 3 revives per character per dungeon, and these sorts of things. There are branching paths. It's not just linear. You can go through a dungeon and go straight for the goal. You can go down some side paths and things like that. But it is just that you enter an area, it stops you, a bunch of enemies spawn, you fight them all, and then it says, go, 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 and points you towards running forward. It's incredibly stylish. The audio design is so crunchy and delightful. The sound design is great. Everything is so very satisfying to do in this game. Let me pull up my notes if I made any. I know I meant to make some, but I don't know if I actually did. Yeah. So I think that this game occupies like a really interesting space where it's definitely more involved than your standard scrolling beat 'em ups, and it's less grueling because there are accessibility options. There are which is great because there are some really tough parts of this game. There's one section of this game where you're forced to use one type of weapon for both of your characters. Well, at least one of your characters that reduces your HP down to 1. So if you get hit, that's it, you're dead, and you need to revive yourself or something like that. So it can become tense. But there are accessibility options where you can make it so the game runs slower, so you have more time to react to things, which is important because in this game, parrying and blocking is actually something that's really, really important in a way that, like, in a lot of side-scrolling beat-em-ups, it's not. For bosses, they have these huge attacks, and they flash purple before they actually initiate their attack, and you can block, or you can press block right as they attack and parry, and you'll deplete their parry gauge, their parry resistance gauge, much like you would in Sekiro when you parry their attacks or block their attacks. You slowly whittle that down and unlock, your instant kill thing like that. But in this, you deplete that and then you smack them really, really hard, and then they'll have like a couple of boss health bars, basically. But you can go into the options and you can increase the damage that you do, decrease the damage that they do, and kind of tailor the experience. Not to the degree that you can in like Celeste or Tunic, it sounds like, where you can just give yourself like infinite health or something. But you can definitely make encounters way easier. And there are a lot of save points and a lot of ways that you can kind of go and farm resources for upgrades and things like that, or just kind of muscle your way through. I had a blast with this. I think I beat it in like 6 hours or something. Hold on, let me look this up.
Perfect.
Did you say this has local co-op?
I believe it does.
Okay.
I have not tried it, but I believe it has co-op. Yeah. Yeah, I beat this in 6 hours. And also another thing, yeah, I tweeted about this actually. Yeah. Let me see. Let me pull this up just to refresh my memory if there's anything that I missed. But another thing that I really liked was, oh yeah, here it is. Just finished Young Souls. I really liked it. A few obnoxious things in it, like the vast majority of 2D beat 'em ups, but it holds a unique place in the genre. Yeah, the obnoxious things, like with every side-scrolling beat 'em up, like moving vertically or moving vertically alongside those like planes, like walking into the background or into the foreground, can mean that your attacks will miss on enemies and that their attacks will miss you. But some enemies and some weapons that you can get actually like have like wide sweeping things where you can actually hit people that are a bit behind you, that lets you kind of like get around that. So like there are, you can go with one sword and one shield. You can get dual wielding weapons. You can get like huge two-handed swords and stuff. And when you swing those, it actually does hit in like a wider swath, and you can kind of hit enemies that can't really hit you if they have like more narrow of a focus on their attacks, which is cool. One thing that I thought was interesting about this is that this game actually kind of addresses the huge body count that you rack up in these sorts of games, and it kind of tries to speak to that. Also, another thing that I thought was good is the writing in this game is typically like not universally, but typically like very good. I really enjoyed it, and the twins that you control are adolescents, and they really have that kind of edgy, rebellious, but like kind of also at the same time sincere vibe that I had when I was like in early high school, like when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school.
Lad.
Yeah, when I was like just swearing in front of my friends, not because I particularly believed in it, but just because I could. Like there's like that weird type of impetuousness of youth where it's like not really to a point, but just kind of for the sake of itself. before you really have a reason to do things, before you decide I need to have a reason to do things, when you just kind of embrace, I'm just going to be out there just because I'm deciding to be, and I can do that. There's a bit of that like is really beautifully captured by this game and by the writing in this game. Like, these are two vulgar youths that are just beating people up because they can and because they're trying to save somebody that they care about, but they're not really letting themselves be fully sincere. They really, there's a degree of sincerity that comes through in the writing, but is also like they put this mask up of toughness. They put this mask up of vulgarity, and other people call them on it. And it's really strikes an interesting balance that I don't see a lot. And I don't know whether that's just because I'm not playing the right games or just because people aren't doing this that much. But yeah, this game is by 1P2P Studio, and it's published by Arcade Crew, who I've covered several things of theirs before for the show, including Streets Rage 4, which was awesome. But yeah, I like it a lot. Let me see how much this actually is. I feel like it's like not that expensive. Yeah, it's $25.
It looks like it's like art style wise, it's almost like if you made like Samurai Jack in like a neon punk kind of style.
Yeah.
Or like a muted neon
it's a
punk
very
style.
It's a very Tendy Tardikovsky.
Tendy
Or Tendy. A very Gendy Tardikovsky kind of a thing. Yeah. That is very true. That's something that I hadn't really picked up on. I gotta say, I love it. I love unique takes on stuff that I've tried before. And I feel like Creature in the Well was a good example of this when I played this. It's like, yo, this is a top-down, like, isometric action game, except also pinball.
Yeah.
And this is a side-scrolling beat-em-up, but also, like, kind of parry and loot mechanics from, like, Sekiro or other, like, action RPGs. And it's really satisfying. You can jump in on enemies and hit them with 2 hits as you're landing, and then, like, juggle them and then take to the air again mid-combo. Like, you can do some almost, like, Devil May Cry-ish stuff in this game. It's not as flashy, as that, but having that sort of stuff going on in this game that also like kind of is in another genre, I thought was really, really interesting. And I don't know, I like it. I think it's really cool. It doesn't hit everything, and on Switch when I played it, the load times are like a little bit more than I would want, but it still runs beautifully and looks great. The one thing that I think is a little bit obnoxious is that you can't skip loading screens, although you can hold the like start button and it goes into this like VHS fast forward, like, and like the screen stuff is going on. Like, there's a lot of attention to detail in this game that I really, really appreciate. I think it's great. I have added it to my GG favorites of 2022, and it's a fairly short list, right now. But yeah, I definitely think this is worth checking out, particularly because it is on Game Pass. So if you are a member of that service, like it's definitely it's really good. It's really good. Yeah, I think right now my list of favorites of 2022 is Returnal, Chicory, Nobody Saves the World, Windjammers 2, Infernax, Sifu, Elden Ring, Persona 4, Arena Ultimax, and Young Souls. So
nice.
It's really good. It's really good. I had a blast with it. I recommend it. And man, let me tell you, as somebody, I have not played the final version co-op, but I did play it co-op with a friend of the show, Andrew Wolf, at PAX when we had it at the behind closed doors kind of meeting, and it was a blast to play co-op. So if you are going to take our lovely Chris Shriver's advice and have some people over to play some games, this is a good one, particularly if you already have Game Pass, because you already have it. So
hell yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, I think there's like 4 major areas in the game, and they're not that long. Like, I think it's like maybe a little bit over an hour for each one. or like maybe a little bit less than an hour, but then you go back to town and like do your inventory management stuff and stuff like that. There's a little bit of an element of like The World Ends With You where like you're buying stuff to look fashionable, but also some of it has like perks. Like when you buy shoes, like some of the shoes will like, reduce the cooldown on your abilities or make it so that you have a higher likelihood of getting special drops or something.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But it's fun. It's fun. I like it a lot.
Cool.
But that's all I got to say about that. Shall we wrap?
Yeah,
Let us wrap the goodness.
Thank you so much, listeners and viewers, for joining us for episode 226 of the Platformers. If you like the show, please like, subscribe, and share, and give us a good review on your podcast platform of choice. If you have thoughts or topics that you want to suggest, we are very receptive to that. I think we've done everything that people have suggested that we do. So far, yeah, you can hit us up on social media at PlatformersPod, or you can come and visit us at twitch.tv/PlatformersPod, and talk to us in the chat. You heard us read out different things that people have commented in the chat. We've got a cool little group of people that join us there, and you can also check out the archives at youtube.com/PlatformersPod. If you want to talk to us individually, you can hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Ribnax, Ribnax. And if you want to see the stuff that I'm writing right now, you can go check out the Elden Ring wiki at IGN.com and to be determined at GameSpot.com. I have not settled on my first project over there, but I am looking forward to it. So yeah, that's that.
Cool. You can find me on Twitter at JawaJosh. And if you want to see all the cool video essay stuff I'm working on, you can go to youtube.com/mediaismythic.
You can find me at Tribes93. I will not talk about Valheim on this show. This is the last time I will bring it up. John, I understand that you bought me that game, but I do not like that game, and therefore will not talk about it.
Other than right now when we talk about
when I talk about not talking about Valheim. If you're interested in following my progress of my new desk build that I'm doing, some people are into that kind of stuff, r/battle stations. You can check my Twitter. I've been posting progress pictures on there, and we'll post pictures of the whole new office setup as it is built out. That is why I'm in the living room right now, because there's just shit everywhere in the office. If you have any indie game recommendations, throw them my way. I'm still getting through Hollow Knight because I haven't had time to play anything because of The Office.
Can I tell you how proud I am of you that you are still playing Hollow Knight?
Dude, I fucking love that game. I'm so upset that I haven't been able to play it. Like, I haven't played anything in the last week, other than today when I played The Simpsons Hit and Run.
Hollow Knight is one of my 10s.
It's a damn fine game. I really want to get back to it.
Have you needed to talk? We talked about this earlier. Have you needed to consult a guide for it, or are you just wandering about?
No, I'm just wandering, and then eventually I find where I need to go, and I'm like, oh, all right. Like I'm taking my time with it. Like I don't have any reason to rush through it. Yeah, it's been good. Yeah, that's all I got. Go see Sonic 2.
I guess I need to amend the record. We have accepted and done all fan recommendations except for Valheim.
Yes, which Josh and I have played.
Mm-hmm.
And
we could talk about it.
Played a good amount.
Yeah,
we did talk about it. I think
you talked about it already. Josh talked about it a long time ago.
Yeah,
and then I talked about how I didn't like it. And
then I guess kind of retroactively we have done every.
And then I talked about
request.
I think how I did like it.
Yeah.
There you go. We talked about Valheim. Done. 100% complete.
We did it.
Nailed it.
All right.
Is that all you had to talk about, Chris? About your plugs and stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really. It's literally just been The Office the last week and a half. That's all I've been doing.
Okay. Cool. Well, from everybody at the Platformers, we hope you have a fantastic week and stay safe out there, because until next time, we are out.
Bye-bye.